If you drive in the United States, what I'm about to tell you matters more in 2026 than most people realize. And no, in most states, going 5 miles per hour over the limit does not automatically get your license revoked. That's not how the danger works. The real danger is quieter than that. It's how one small ticket turns into points, how points turn into a pattern, how a pattern triggers a suspension review, and how a simple mistake like paying a ticket online can lock you into consequences you never saw coming. Right now, across the country, state DMV systems are watching repeat behavior more aggressively than most drivers understand. Not one big dramatic crime, not one wild police chase. Normal people, working people, parents, delivery drivers, sales reps, contractors, nurses. People who drive every day and think a minor ticket is just an annoying expense. In 2026, that assumption is exactly what is hurting drivers the most. And that's why this video matters. Because the rule that can wreck your license is not always the ticket itself. Sometimes it's what you do after the ticket. Sometimes it's what you fail to do. Sometimes it's the fact that your state counts points over a longer period than you think, or that another state can still send your violation back home, or that your insurance company doesn't punish you right away, so you relax, forget about it, and then get blindsided months later. Stay with me, because the biggest mistake is not speeding. The biggest mistake is thinking a small speeding ticket is harmless. Let's start with the first truth most drivers never hear. There is no single national DMV rule in 2026 that says 5 miles over the limit revokes every American driver's license. That part is clickbait. But here's the part that's real. State systems can absolutely suspend or revoke your license when small violations stack up, when you miss a deadline, when you fail to appear, or when your record crosses your state's threshold faster than you expected. In New York, for example, your license may be suspended if you hit 11 points within 24 months. And even a basic speeding ticket for 1 to 10 miles per hour over the limit is 3 points. That means a few minor tickets in the wrong window can suddenly stop feeling minor. In California, the standard negligent operator thresholds are 4 points in 12 months, 6 in 24 months, or 8 in 36 months. In Florida, the official suspension thresholds are 12 points in 12 months, 18 in 18 months, and 24 in 36 months. That is the real story in 2026. Not one magical number, not one secret federal law. A point system that becomes dangerous when drivers underestimate how fast small mistakes can stack. And here's trap number 1. The "I'll just pay it and move on" trap. This is where people lose leverage without realizing it. The second many drivers pay a ticket online, they treat it like a parking fee. But in traffic cases, paying is often the same thing as accepting the conviction. Once that happens, the point entry can hit your record, the clock starts running, and your best options may shrink immediately. The ticket that felt convenient can become the most expensive 5-minute decision you made all year. Trap number 2 is not checking how your own state actually works. Drivers hear rumors from cousins, friends, coworkers, TikTok clips, and comment sections. Don't worry, it falls off fast. Don't worry, out of state doesn't count. Don't worry, traffic school erases everything. That kind of lazy advice is how people get burned. Different states work differently, and in 2026, assuming your state works like somebody else's can cost you your license. Trap number 3 is the out-of-state myth. Many people still believe a ticket outside their home state stays outside their home state. Sometimes that belief is dead wrong. Florida says out-of-state citations can be added to a Florida record if the violation is point accessible under Florida law. California also says out-of-state convictions can add negligent operator points if the violation would count in California. New York is more specific. It generally does not add ordinary out-of-state moving violation points for non-commercial drivers, except for Canada. But New York can still suspend your license if you fail to answer a moving violation in most other states. So the lazy version of the internet advice, another state doesn't matter, is not something smart drivers should trust. Trap number 4 is failing to appear, failing to answer, or missing the school election deadline. This one destroys people because it feels administrative, not dangerous. But administrative mistakes are exactly what trigger DMV actions. California's handbook says that if you get a traffic ticket and fail to appear in court, the DMV may suspend your driving privilege until you appear. Florida gives drivers a 30-day window to elect a basic driver improvement course in lieu of points for eligible citations. Miss that window, and you may lose one of your cleanest ways to contain the damage. In other words, the system punishes not only bad driving, but delay. Trap number 5 is thinking traffic school always wipes the slate clean. It doesn't work that way. In California, Traffic Violator School can help keep a qualifying 1-point citation from being reported to your insurer, but the citation can still remain on your driving record. In New York, an approved defensive driving course does not physically remove the conviction or points from your record. It can reduce active points used for suspension calculations by up to 4, which helps, but it is not magic. That distinction matters a lot. Trap number 6 is insurance. This is where the real money gets taken. Most drivers feel relief after the ticket is paid because nothing bad happens immediately. No dramatic call, no instant cancellation, no big warning message. So they assume they escaped. Then renewal season comes. The insurer reruns the record, recalculates the risk, and suddenly a cheap little ticket starts behaving like a long-term payment plan. And if you already had 1 or 2 violations before that, the hit can be far worse than the original fine ever suggested. Now let me tell you the part almost nobody explains clearly. The most dangerous ticket is not always the biggest one. Sometimes it's the one that lands when your record is already close to a threshold. That's why 2 drivers can get the same speeding citation and have completely different consequences. For one driver, it's a fine and a lesson. For the other, it's the trigger that pushes the record into review, suspension, probation, higher premiums, SR22 issues, job trouble, or all of the above. And yes, in 2026, Some states are also moving faster on serious speeding than before. California launched a pilot called FAST that automatically refers 100+ mile per hour speeding tickets to the DMV for driver safety review, independent of the court case. That means in certain serious cases, the DMV does not have to sit around waiting for the normal court timeline before reviewing whether your driving privilege should be suspended or revoked. That is not about 5 miles over. That is about how quickly modern systems can move once they classify you as dangerous. So what actually works if you get a ticket? First, stop treating it like a minor online errand. Read every line. Look at the court date, response deadline, county, charge code, and whether your state offers school, deferred options, or other relief. Your first mistake is emotional. You want the problem gone, so you pay fast. But speed is not always protection. Sometimes speed is surrender. Second, check your current record before you decide anything. Not later, now. In Florida, you can check license status online for free and purchase full records if needed. In California and New York, you can request your driving record and see what's already sitting there. This matters because strategy depends on context. If this is your first problem in years, you may have room. If you're already sitting on points, this ticket is not routine anymore. Third, if your state allows traffic school or defensive driving for your situation, find out immediately whether you must elect it before conviction, before the court date, or within a strict deadline. In Florida, drivers must elect BDI within 30 days from the citation date for eligible cases. In California, a judge may allow traffic violator school for a 1-point violation, but you need to handle it correctly and on time. In New York, a point and insurance reduction program course can reduce active points used in suspension calculations, but it does not erase the conviction. Timing matters, details matter, assumptions are expensive. Fourth, if your job depends on your license, stop trying to save money in the dumbest place possible. Talk to a local traffic attorney before you lock in the conviction. Not because every ticket needs a courtroom war, but because local lawyers know the local court, local prosecutors, local procedures, and local outcomes. A consultation can tell you whether this is a small annoyance or a record problem that needs a serious response. For drivers whose income depends on driving, getting professional advice early is often cheaper than pretending the ticket is no big deal. Fifth, never ignore a citation from another state. Even if your home state handles out-of-state convictions differently, failure to answer can still come back to crush you. That is where a lot of people get trapped. They don't fear the original ticket, so they neglect it. Then months later, they discover that the real issue was not the speed, but the failure to respond. And finally, treat insurance like a second battlefield. A traffic ticket is not over when court is over. It is over when you know what hit your driving record, what hit your premium, what options you used, and whether you need to shop coverage before renewal locks in a higher price. Here is the bottom line. In America, as of July 2026, the nightmare usually isn't that one officer caught you doing 5 over and your license vanished on the spot. The nightmare is that you kept thinking small violations were harmless until the system connected them. The ticket, the points, the deadline, the missed appearance, the renewal shock, the employer check, the suspension notice that arrives after the damage is already in motion. That is how normal drivers lose their licenses. Not always through one huge act of recklessness, sometimes through one small act of carelessness, repeated just often enough to trigger a system they never bothered to understand. So if you drive for work, if your household depends on your car, if you cannot afford a suspension, do not wait until the warning letter shows up. Check your record. Know your state's thresholds. Never assume another state's ticket is irrelevant. Never assume traffic school means the same thing everywhere. And never assume paying online is the safest move just because it is the fastest one. Because in 2026, the drivers who keep their licenses are not always the luckiest ones. They are the ones who respond early, read the fine print, and take every ticket seriously before the system decides they are the problem.